Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMics_VG8, that's MagicMics_Video Game 8, for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you. I'm Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? This should be a pretty interesting episode. I think we're going to have a lot of similar things on our list for very different reasons.
Oh, yeah. Ruben Bressler.
Yeah, I always like these kind of episodes, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say, because this is much more of a category rather than a wide swath.
Yeah, and I think it's good to kind of explain sort of where we're at. Like, basically, this is our 246th Top 10 episode. We've been podcasting pretty damn long time now, about 10 years or so. And when we did our first top 10, at least the one I think is our first top 10, I could have checked this better, but I went back through all the scripts, and I think it was the top 10 best sets of all time, which I do think sound like a good thing to get started on. If you're going to start somewhere in top 10 of Magic or whatever, let's talk about the best sets and go from there. So that was made around July 2017. And so we've had a lot of change since then. So in the, 8 years or so since then, we can look back and say, ever since that point in time, what were the best sets that's come out from that point? So we don't, go back over things we've seen and saw and talked about before, and B, it's a bit more sort of all new together, and then C, it's also sort of in the modern era, so it's not too old to be kind of weird, I guess is a way to put it. Because I was around when the rocks were soft, and if you want me to make me talk about visions some more, I'll do it. Don't mess with me.
Bro, I was right there when God said, "Let there be light." I was flipping switches. Shoot,
right.
I'm
Yeah, and I'm the old man. I'm the youngest in the of the party here, and I also started playing in the last millennia.
Exactly. In the late 1900s, if you will.
yeah, exactly. Dude, that messed me up when I saw somebody say like, I saw this dude's ID and he was born in the 1900s. And I was like, whoa, hold up.
Not cool. Not cool. All right. We also begin with our choice of the top comment from our last top 10, a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent, letting us know what card, or rather what drop we did not choose as one of our top 10 secret lair drops. Ruben?
We had some interesting feedback on this one, actually. I recommend you guys go take a look at some of the comments of what people got attached to and what people loved. There were some really good ones. But this one is from Grageous. Grageous writes, I know original Magic art to some modern era players is goofy at best. However, I get really nostalgic for the old art, and one of my top 5 old school artists produced some iconic art, one of which being Bird of Paradise. The Mark Poole Secret Lair not only included the original art for Bird of Paradise, but also a new art for an iconic land with an Easter egg for another piece of Mark Poole art. The Wasteland with the destroyed Library of Alexandria is great, in this Old Man Magic's opinion.
Wow.
That's a good call. I can't argue with that. Like, that's solid. That's good reasoning on that pick, for sure.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think, the Wasteland with the destroyed Library of Alexandria is fantastic. We can't get Library of Alexandria back. It's always very thematic that it was destroyed and so on. Really cool. And if for what it's worth, I've actually met Mark Poole, and he's a super cool dude. Like, absolutely awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
The first Magic cards I ever got signed were 4 4th edition Birds of Paradise in 4 different languages that I got signed at Origins in 2001. And they are somewhere in my stuff.
Somewhere. I think I've seen these. I think you brought those to events and things.
Oh, they're like a nice suit. You know how you have a nice suit that you wear to a lot of functions? Mm-hmm. Those Birds of Paradise, like my Mount Fuji mountains, are my nice suit that I wear to all functions all the time.
Well, congrats and thanks to Gragus MTG 1584 for being a part of the show. We super appreciate that. Stay tuned for our top 10 list this week, and let us know what your choice of your honorable mention may be that we did not bring up. So let's go ahead and talk about our top 10 sets that did not come out in that came out in just the last 8 years or so.
Right.
I have about, there's 5 choices of mine that I can discuss.
Okay.
It does not start with number 10. Number 10 is my first of many hires, but we'll get there. Ruben, what's number 10?
So we did, so there's a couple ways that we could title this episode. The best sets since the last time we did this top 10.
I think best sets since 2017.
Best sets since 2017.
It's an easy way to classify it.
It should also be noted that 2017 was the 25th anniversary of Magic.
Right.
So this is the second quarter century of Magic.
I have this as top 10 sets of all time post 25th anniversary.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah,
that
works.
So we're in the silver age now of Magic sets. And I will start off with something that I think of as an incredible idea that came out at the wrong time. Because it is such a brilliant concept and it is such a smart idea. And we've talked about it on the show about how unfortunate it is that the very first set Jumpstart came out in July of 2020. So my number 10 is Jumpstart, the original Jumpstart.
Nice.
God, what a brilliant idea Jumpstart is. You know, we say Constructed has so much investment that you need to give in order to even get started with it. But Limited has this investment of knowledge that you need in order to have enjoyment from it. And how do you bridge that gap? How do you have something that has a low barrier of entry of complexity as well as a low barrier of entry of investment of money and resources? And Jumpstart being this brand new format where you got these two little packs and you would shuffle them together to create combinations of different packs was just a stroke of genius. They all had unique lands in them. So, you know, there were like 8 red packs in Jumpstart, but each red pack had different mountains. And it had a bunch of reprints in it, but it also had a bunch of new cards that were specific to help teach you about mechanics and synergies and combos and things like that. I really love Jumpstart. I wish that, you know, obviously I wish currently having COVID, I'm getting over COVID right now. I wish the COVID's pandemic of 2020 hadn't happened. Not most of which, but also not least of which, because Jumpstart really, really did not have the impact that it should have.
Yeah, I was a big fan of it and almost made my list, partly a little bit selfishly, because it's something I had also pitched something similar, not exactly like that while I was at Wizards, because it's reminiscent of the Smash Up board game.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where it's like you can have vampires and ghosts and whatever, and right, and you can put the dinosaurs with the werewolves or whatever. And I was like, yeah, why can't we just do that in Magic? Just build a bunch of little theme packs and let people play them or whatever. And sure enough, they found a better way to do it, which I thought was very cool. But also, I'm with you, right? Because you couldn't have that full year of that release being in the game stores where people could bring their friends and teach them and, you know, whatever. A lot of that kind of got cut off. But tells you also how good the set was, that it went over really well despite all the limitations it had around it.
Yeah, it was supposed to release on June 26th, 2020, and that didn't happen. It got pushed back to July 17th in America and all the way to October for those in Europe. So it remains clearly the last 5 years, I would say easily the last 10 years, the best product idea that I have seen since making a Commander release, which was older than 10 years ago. So, like, this thing is absolutely brilliant. It sucks that it came out when it did. Obviously, anything that affected by COVID sucks in that way, but it still killed it. It still sold super well. The singles are worth a crap ton of money and still are, from what I can tell, at least some of them, of course. And, you know, the idea of take A and B and shuffle them together, all of a sudden you have a limited experience, was just, you know, it was the magic sauce. You know, it really was. It was a fantastic idea, and I think they did a great job with it. And I was excited they put this on Arena. Like, they still put it on Arena. It was, you know, only for modern and past play by default when it first came out. That eventually, I think, whether it be sort of player confusion or just power level reasons, they tried to do it with every set, because God bless Wizards, when they find something that's very popular and works, they just go all the time, do it forever. So then they started doing it for every set. It got watered down, kind of lame. Eventually they said, okay, this is bad. We're going to stop doing that. We're going to do Jumpstart releases. We're going to make them their own thing, you know, with flavor and super cool cards and ideas. And that's been working ever since. So hopefully they won't do that again. Don't go back to set Jumpstart. It was bad. All right, let's move on here to Power Dragons number 10. What you got?
My number 10 is higher on somebody's list, and I bet it's probably in somebody's top 3.
Ooh, all right. We'll move on here to number 9 in that case. And I can talk about my number 9, which I appreciate because it was a fantastic set that I really enjoyed. And I think, you know, there were some ways where Universes Beyond was doing well, and I think they did a really good job. And then I think at some point they really started to hit sort of strides, you know? And I think with Magic the Gathering Fallout, they did a fantastic job of showcasing what makes Fallout cool. What makes Fallout interesting rather. And like they had like all the little bobblehead things that you could get, the bobbleheads that were serialized, which is really rad. They had the radiation thing and the rad roaches and all that stuff that's important. They had these junk token artifacts, and Lord knows it's just full of junk in the Fallout universe. All these super cool characters and the commander decks that were sort of flavored around them. All that seemed to work. The dog and whatnot was in there. Like, it was great. And the secret lair releases they had were the whole bunch of stuff. The special bobbleheads, of course, were great. And just, everything about Fallout to me was just kind of a home run. It sold amazingly well and is still super popular.
Yeah, I still have one of the masks that they gave away at MagicCon that year of the thumb, the dude.
Oh, cool.
They gave those away when you were leaving the convention, which I thought was kind of fun. So like, yeah, they really figured it out for cross promotion on there, and I think you're right. It hit all the boxes, and I think to some extent it also broke down the barriers a little bit for players of like, oh, okay, I guess we can have this in our Magic cards. It's really fun, and they got everything right, and they're still good cards. Okay, sure. And you saw some people kind of acquiesce a little bit starting around that time.
Yeah, and there were some really fun ways that they printed cards as well. I really like the showcase frames that had the Pip-Boy overlay, for example.
Oh yeah,
that were just adorable and incredible. You also had the I forget what the mascot's name is, but you had the arts of things like Soul Ring and I think Farewell, and some of those other cards that had the logo guy in reenacting scenes having to do with Fallout, which I think was wonderful as well. Just a really fun and faithful recreation of those games.
Yeah, and I did not know this, but the Fallout universe contains a parody of Magic the Gathering called Tragic the Garnering that players are hopelessly addicted to.
Sure.
Goodness.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. Ruben, what's number 9?
I share my number 9.
Oh.
Yep.
Presumably that leaves only one person that I could share with.
I had no idea.
And if you want to take the lead, Power Dragon,
yeah, sure.
Feel free.
I think one of the things you notice about the things on my list are actually, I'm kind of looking at stuff outside of the cards more than anything else of like why they made my list. But this one is Strixhaven from 2021.
My number 10.
And this was actually one of those things I thought was really cool because I kind of feel like in some ways, I have a little bit of Ravnica burnout, of just these color pairs. We've done them, 11 Ravnica sets or something now. It's like, let's try something a little bit different. And I appreciated they said, okay, let's try to take this whole different theme. Let's try to make this new world where, we have these color pairs at the school, still leaving room for you to come back and visit it and do the other 5 or whatever, obviously. But I thought it was a cool departure to try something else. And it was also interesting to see online how newer players responded to it, right? Because you would call something Golgari and they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, that's such, like, it was very interesting as a social experiment that I don't even know if it was intentional or not, but it was just kind of cool to see. And it turns out the set was fun. The cards were interesting. And we got some new recurring characters for the long term of Magic, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah. I also chose Strixhaven not only for the story, which is fascinating and wild, not only for the setup, the framework of the story, where we have this wizard school that allows us to not discuss other wizard schools in other IPs and instead use the Witherbloom and the Prismari and the Lorehold and the rest of that, but also because of the mechanics. This was one of the deepest, most interesting limited formats I've ever played in, partially because of Lesson and Learn, which are going to be making a comeback with the Avatar expansion, which I think is fascinating. Cool. At least Lessons are. I don't know if we've seen any Learn cards. But Lessons and Learn was a fascinating addition and made for a very instant and sorcery-centric limited format, which they've tried in the past and had always kind of failed with. They actually pretty much succeeded with Magecraft and Lessons and Learn in this set. So I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, Magecraft was certainly interesting. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, which was interesting. If I recall, the limited environment was one of the slowest of all time.
It was pretty slow.
Lesson and learning. You could go get stuff from your sideboard, like, gain life
Mhm.
and do things and draw extra cards and so on. There was a
Yeah,
whole
the
variety of ways.
Pest tokens also provided chump blockers that gained life. So
It was also super unique about it only had the 5 factions. It didn't have 10. It didn't do that Aether Drift, let's do 10 race car things. It did 5 schools, and those are the schools. It made drafting a really unique experience where, in terms of like where you run into players, a lot of players were going to bump into each other in weird ways, which made things more interesting. I think the lessons to learn cards made it way cooler in terms of a draft archetype and what cards were powerful or seen as powerful at the beginning versus seen as powerful later at the end of the format. Just really terrific, great ideas. I really enjoyed Strixhaven. And as well as my number 10. All right, so that is y'all's number 9. Let's move on here to number 8. Cool. Well, mine I think is very straightforward, and I think the idea behind it was very scary. There is the idea that a set is going to be legal for a certain amount of time, and that it happens. There's a window, and then that's gone, and we move on and the stuff. And it's like, okay, but we need a base set. We need a core set, if you will, and we need to make sure that we update that every single year. And somebody, God bless them, said, why do we have to do that every year again? Why don't we just make one really cool, awesome set? Got some great staples, some really cool cards that's going to blow people's minds, also some new stuff, and just keep that in the format for like 4 to 5 years. And no one, I think, took them seriously as my guess when they first said it. But here we are with Foundations. Foundations is an absolutely fantastic product that came out November last year, and just really showed that, yeah, we can bring Llanowar Elves and Omniscience back in, and maybe Omniscience got a little cray-cray, but incredibly exciting. Bunch of really cool cards. I thought it was great. The marketing was fun. The set itself was neat. We got to have collector boosters of sort of a core set, essentially, which was great. And I've had nothing but super fun with Foundations. Even the limited format was great.
Absolutely.
Dude, it still sells so well that retailers can't get enough of it on their shelves. Like they got it right with that set. Like,
yeah.
And I'm with you. I think we all went, 5 years. That's gonna everything else is 3 and this one's 5. And all right, I guess you don't need a core set every year, but like, what if the cards aren't relevant and whatever? But realizing that they also know those are going to be in standard for 5 years. So they can build with that in mind, which is really cool. And honestly, I think really, except for Omniscience, that's kind of the only card for me that didn't work in the set. Like everything else was great.
Right.
Sure. And I still think that Omniscience is the right kind of card that you want in a Foundations style set. If you're going to have something legal for 5 years, you do want to have big, heavy hitters that you can have as your signposts for. This is what this is about. This is what we're building for, and what's available. And Omniscience is so iconic and so important to Blue's like relatively new big spell color identity that I like that it's in there.
Yeah, I mean, like Llanowar Elves doubling season, Twin Flame Tyrant, that Eldrazi with just the 7 keywords and Ward 7 life.
Yep.
Sire 7 death.
That's right.
Yep.
Just some of that stuff really embraced, I think, really cool, traditional, anime is cool and fun. Magic is cool and fun. This is like some really cool basic stuff to really define what is happening here. And stuff like Bloodthirsty Conqueror just gets, casual fans excited. That stuff blows their minds.
It's also fun that we're kind of rediscovering Foundations cards that can become good later in, this came out several years ago or a while ago at this point, but then Raise the Past, suddenly people are like, oh, right, that card's legal. And then everyone goes, oh, right, Llanowar Elves is legal.
Bruh, that happens at least once a week in my YouTube videos. Like if somebody's like, oh, I forgot that Helana and Lena were standard legal. Hell, I was crushing people with Trigon Predator. Like I was like, that's in Foundation. This is awesome.
Yeah, let's go. I think that's cool. So even just stuff like Progenitus, those are casual monsters. People love that stuff, and so they made a lot of fun, cool, casual cards while also keeping it just interesting enough in the competitive nature of limited and whatnot to make it really great. I loved it. Really fun. All right, let's move on here to number 8 for Ruben. What you got?
My number 8 is a set that is near and dear to my heart. It is, and I've said this on the show before, to this day, I think the best limited environment that exists. But you've got to have a real specific group to be able to play Battle Bond. Because boy, Battle Bond is just the most fun I've ever had drafting. And it's a delight. If you've never gotten the opportunity, like if somebody pulls out a box of Battle Bond at like a lobby con, I'm just like, oh boy, this is a whole nother level of excitement now. The fact that all of the partner cards are sort of next to each other in the packs so that you're kind of guaranteed to get the partners. You've got the 2-on-1 drafting thing that happens where you have the 4 teams of 2 that you open up and pick 2 cards from a pack together, and you're building 2 decks simultaneously. You've also got obviously some huge hits in Commander and Beyond in these sets. I mean, this was I think one of the first reprintings of Doubling Season.
Yep.
But also Lantax was in this one.
Yep.
And then let's see. I mean, you've got like Will and Rowan were in this set. I feel like there's one really expensive card still from Battle Bond that I'm forgetting the name of. But anyway, there's a bunch of really fun stuff in Battle Bond.
Yeah, this was one I was very lucky to still be at Wizards and one of the testers for that when they were just concepting the idea. And I remember getting done and going, I think I like it. I'm just not sure everybody else is going to get it. And then I was just glad that when it made it to public, that was not necessarily the case and it was totally fine. So yeah, really cool. I think you're right. They got it right for what they were trying to make it for. It's unfortunate, a thing that you can't just do a lot of because there's not a lot of team situations set up. So you kind of have to schedule an event and make a thing just to do it. So most people got to do it once or twice, and that was kind of it. But it was cool for a moment in time, for sure.
It's a very sort of I'm trying to think of sort of exactly what I can correlate it to, but maybe just like if your favorite band makes like a weird album that no one really gets, and then they go back to sort of making like their normal stuff, but you like the weird thing that they did, man. This is the thing that people always call back to, like, man, if we could just do Battle Bond one more time. I think the cards you were looking for were Archfiend of Despair, which is a weird black monster.
Yeah.
And Will Kenrith has very expensive planeswalker for a casual format. And also Mickle St. Lattice is that, and the dual lands.
Oh, I guess at the time it had True Name Nemesis too, because that needed a reprint when that set came out.
Sure.
And God, does everyone love Vigor? Vigor has been printed so many times. It's still at least $14 for a copy.
Those original Lorwyn incarnation avatars are
cool.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely terrific. And so yeah, that was just such a cool set and an idea. It's one that you just hear harken back to over and over again. I never got to play it in limited, but I only hear everyone just like Ruben is like, dude, downloaded 4x was ridiculous. And like, also, correct me if I'm wrong here, aren't partners seen as like a mistake looking back?
So
in the Commander community,
partners, the cards that have the partner mechanic,
right?
Yes, but those are from the Commander sets.
Okay.
Partner with is not seen as a mistake.
Okay.
So the cards like Ocom and Cinderspult, or Will and Rowan, or any of those, the dog and the guy throwing the frisbee. I forget what those guys.
It's very
are called.
Specific. X goes with Y.
X goes with Y.
Partner. Question.
Yeah, not just like Timna Thrasios kind of garbage.
That set also had the mechanic where like you could help each other pay for spells, which was kind of cool. So you could be like, hey, man, we kind of want to do this thing, and we kind of want to get rid of this card. Like, y'all mind help me pay for this or whatever?
Yeah, it's called Assist.
Yeah, that was fun too.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, that was neat and really cool set. Let's move on here to Power Dragons number 8. What you got?
My number 8 was one of the times that we actually got to deal with bad guys, and it was cool. But Streets of New Capenna from 2022. Like, this is one of those sets that it was so different, but the aura around it was so cleanly done, right? Like, everything with that certain look, the font, like everybody in suits, and it was like a 40s gangster kind of thing. And I was like, oh, and you got mob families. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And it allowed him to create a world where now when we need bad guys, we have a place we can go to get them, right? Like if we need to pull something or, all right, well, we don't want to make a character do this crazy thing. Like, hey, there's already 4 crime families. Let's go get one, right? So it's cool that this exists.
Yeah.
The set was really fun. It even had good useful cards in it. If you do actually, if we want to talk about that with like the triomes and things like that, were all very cool.
I was going to say the lands.
Yeah. So there's some really, really fun stuff in here, but man, just the look of it was so different and so clean. And it almost felt like an early Universes Beyond thing because it kind of wasn't typical Magic, but it just looks so awesome. So like, yeah,
It looks very different for sure.
yeah, and the promotions around it were cool. The things they sent even to creators were like there was like these different glasses and flutes you get to like if you wanted to throw a party. They had the little like the weird glitter drink, whatever Halo, I think is what they called it, that you could make your own little Halo and drink.
It's not drugs. It's not drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not drugs.
Actually, they even I don't know if you remember. I probably should have looked it up and so we could have shared it on the stream. Maybe we'll do it next week. But they sent one of them for whichever the Naya group I think was like the party group.
Yeah.
Like they had a piece of sheet music inside.
Yeah.
So I actually found an app and I went through and I found the
Cabaret
pacing for the time of music or whatever, and actually was able to play the song, and it was a real song.
Nice.
Like, which is cool.
That's
and
great.
apparently, when I shared it, Watsy replied like, "Oh, we didn't think anybody was actually going to play it. We just had it made." They didn't even. I think a bunch of them hadn't even heard it yet. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was totally different. Stuff you can't really do with other Magic sets, which I thought was neat.
Yeah. Evan's got nothing nice to say about Capenna, so I'll jump in before he says anything.
We can do the sandwich if you like. I'll just.
Oh yeah, we can do the poop sandwich.
Go
yeah,
for it.
Go ahead.
It's okay if somebody hates
What makes a crime family, everybody? What makes crime? Why does mobster? Because someone is chasing them. There is no cops on New Capenna.
Oh, I agree with that part.
There's no cops on New Capenna. There's no crime. You can have crime if no one's stopping you. What the hell are the lawyers even doing? Who's taking the people in? Where are they staying when they take them in? It doesn't make any sense. I know it's a weird thing. It's the same thing. We didn't have any cowboys or whatever, any sheriffs, one sheriff card or whatever on in Outlaws. Yeah, same problem. I don't understand it. I think the set idea is cool. The idea of this angels, some of this Halo stuff is when you like crush angels for like their olive oil juice. It was weird. The point is, I'm just like, I think the idea was so rad, but you drop the other side of the ball that makes it unique. Why is the Godfather interesting?
Yeah.
Not just because they got away with everything.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm either let's go full on and let it just be run by the mobs, or at least have some authority that they're dying.
Right. You can't have organized crime if the crime has no opposition. I agree with you. There, you know, I do think that there needed to be some level of opposition, and you know, I'm not going to say I'm pro cops, but you know, you kind of need.
It's sensitive, right? I get that it's tough.
Yeah.
But we do these things because it's not.
And when you have such a modern archetype, such as Outlaws or such as New Capenna, you do need to reflect the times. Obviously,
sure.
In a fantasy setting, you're not going to have cops. Cops were an invention of the like mid to late 1800s or early 1800s. So it doesn't make sense for most settings to have cops. You have guards, you have errant orders of knights, you have armies. You don't have cops. But for New Capenna, which is Art Deco and inspired like Great Gatsby and like era involving, if you have pinstripe suits and cigars, you need to have the opposition. So I do understand that. Something else I really like about Capenna, there's a couple things to really like about Capenna. One is it's a 3-color set. And while 3-color sets are more difficult for constructed formats, they are significantly better for Commander. So we get 3-color sets less often than we get 2-color sets. But when we get 3-color sets, they have a huge impact on Commander because we get a bunch of new Commander-specific cards, either in the set itself or in the Commander product, and we get a bunch of new combinations of cards that are now unlocked because of those new abilities. So Cabaret Courtyard being able to be a land for your budget Naya deck, or Jetmir Nexus of Revels being able to be a new commander for your Naya deck is a much more realistic possibility. I also dug super deep into the lore of Capenna because this was while I was running my D&D show for Nerd Girls channel. And New Capenna is built on the ruins of old Capenna. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with the lore, but it is fascinating. And this is a great, I want to see, because we have Streets of New Capenna, I want to see the roads of old Capenna, or all roads lead to Capenna, because Capenna was a classic Arthurian knight, like Game of Thrones style, liege knights situation. And I think that it would be fascinating to see where the angels and the devils and all of that came from.
Yeah, like a more modernized Tarkir kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or less fantasy Throne of Eldraine.
Right. And I would just note that, like, I don't hate the set. I thought the Trilands were super cool. I thought Ob Nixilis, the adversary, was one of the coolest designed planeswalkers.
Mhm.
Like, just fascinating. Just a weird card. I don't, it's weird. It's one of the planeswalkers, honestly, you weren't always sure you should be attacking. And I know that at least is unique. I'm like, should
Yeah.
I just go for the face here? I'm not even sure if this is gonna, that was really cool. I thought it was neat. The Casualty X things was cool. Yeah, so there, and Ledger Shredder was super rad in constructed formats. So, like, a lot of stuff that was cool
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
still a worthwhile card today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
But and I really enjoyed Rafine as well as one of the best cards in the set. So yeah, neat, interesting. But just I felt like just dropped the ball big time on one thing. All right. Let's move on here to number 7. Ruben, what's number 7?
My number 7, I don't think is cheating. I think my number 7 works.
Okay.
And I think that it's worth noting, and I'm not sharing it with anybody, so I'm hoping that we are all on the same page here, but I put every secret lair as my number 7. It's been
That's fair. I'll allow it.
okay. Yeah, it's close. I understand that it's borderline, but the secret lair like program or the secret lair initiative got started in 2019, in late 2019. And since then, we've got more than 2,000 cards from various secret lairs, 2,000 various printings of various kinds. And this replaced things like From the Vault and collector's editions and things like that to now where we have all of these sort of singles, like music style singles that come out to our heart's content in little flavorful packages. And I think that Secret Lair as a program, and dare I say as a set, has been a success overall for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I think it's good as a replacement, like you're saying, for things like Commander Collection or, Jace's Spellbook or any of that other stuff we were doing. Because this allows them to just make more and a larger variety. So, right, like if blue cards aren't your thing or green cards aren't your thing, I was like, okay, cool. There's going to be something for you next month, right? You don't have to wait forever to get it. And it was, it's a case-by-case basis, which is also cool and allows them to experiment, right? You can get a bunch of different artists in here to make stuff that you wouldn't necessarily put on a Magic set because their art style is too crazy, right? You can try some fun promotional things and tie in with different movies or different charity stuff that you're doing that you can't easily do with other products. It started to fill a lot of different roles that I don't even know if WotC initially thought about or intended, but it's definitely become that piece that they can use for a lot of different things. And honestly, the cards tend to hold their value on top of it. So it's hard to complain about it.
It's easy to complain about it. I know, because I have seen so many store owners who have done nothing but bitch and whine about it because what happened was, and at least from what I can tell, here's kind of what happened. One of the reasons why Secret Lair didn't exist for a very, very long time was because whenever the Wizards Legal says something, they listen. And Wizards Legal said, you don't touch the secondary market, you don't acknowledge the secondary market, the secondary market might as well just be a boogeyman in the closet because we don't talk about it. And it wasn't spoken about by any of the employees or certainly any of the higher ups. They didn't mention it in any of the investor calls or whatever. You did not mention that, right? And they finally said, okay, we're going to try it because like the baseball card market has already been doing this, the basketball card market, all of the sports cards has already gone way all in. We're talking way more than what Wizards does. But they said, okay, we're going to dip the toe. We're going to do a great property in The Walking Dead. We're going to make some cool art treatments. And we're really going to push and see what happens. It exploded. And what happens when something works for Magic? They do a ton of it. And so they went all in and they hired a whole like Secret Lair division and people to take care of it and art directors for it and so on. And this time I think it actually worked. Now the issue is that the reason it's complained about is because it took that revenue stream that was those collector's editions and From the Vaults and so on from the stores and it just moved right into Wizards. And so from that end, I understand, right? They took that money, they did something different with it. But business is going to business, and they weren't going to get to $1 billion brand accidentally. And so they found a way to sell direct to market at a very high volume, at a very good rate, right into their pockets.
Yeah, but I like two arguments that is always, as a retailer having lived through it, you weren't getting that many units of the other stuff you were trying to sell anyway, whether it's collectors, from the vaults or whatever. You were getting like 10, like whatever. Like that revenue's not doing that much. Plus, even now, go ask the retailers how they're doing. They're doing great. like
doing just
Magic.
fine.
Their problem right now is not having enough Magic on the shelf. Not that there's too much Magic. So yeah, I don't think it really hurt the way people thought it was going to.
Ruben, I think you're muted, buddy. Or we're having another weird audio hiccup.
Oh yeah, no, I was muted because I was coughing a minute ago. That's my bad.
And I will to note, or do want to note that Wizards has reached out and does store-based secret lair things.
Yeah.
And sold some secret lairs through the stores. So this isn't they just like 100% abandoned. I'm not trying to say that Wizard is 100% bad guy here or bad guy or whatever.
Sure.
Business is business in here. But I do want to note that revenue streams where they went, and I honestly I understand when Wizards goes all in on something that works.
Yeah,
and it works.
Yeah.
It still works. It's not stopped working. So that's a good thing. All right, moving on here to my number 7. Let me tell you, children, gather round. Of the many conversations I had with the Wizards of the Coast in late 2000s, early 2010s. And at the time, and you can feel free to go way back into my archives and check this out. I was arguing, hey, we really need to expand like the properties and the IPs and stuff that Magic touches. And I said, you know what? Why can't we just do just a tiny thing with D&D? And they would look at you like you grew a third head. What are you talking about? We do not cross these streams, people. This is not a stream you cross. And then they made D&D Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and it was awesome. And I loved it, and it was great, and a bunch of really cool cards. Had the dungeons, has the D20 rolling in it, had all these super flavorful things, got the artwork from all these old books, which is cool. Like, it just showed that, like, hey, we always wanted this. We really did. And they finally crossed the streams. And to see that, how many years, how many times, I'm telling you, I've spoken to so many people, and they were just like, Evan, you're out of your mind. This is not something that X does not go with Y here. You're never going to do this. And then they finally did it, and it worked, and it was great.
Yeah, there was a lot of old thinking that hung around Wizards for a long time.
True.
I think anybody been in the retail space, there was this whole thing that like the card gamers didn't like the role players, who didn't like the miniatures players or whatever, and everybody wanted to keep them separated. And there was just a lot of opportunities where it's like, yeah, but maybe this is the time, or maybe this is the opportunity, or hey, what if you just had this character show up here? Because it kind of makes sense. And it was never a conversation, And at some point, they had the changeover in presidents at Wizards, and they were like, F it, let's try it. And they made that first D&D supplement. That was the crossover. And everybody went, hey, people kind of like that. What if we put this in a Magic set? How are people going to respond? Turns out pretty positively.
Yeah.
So now that's open forever now, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, far be it from me to ever criticize anything having to do with Dungeons and Dragons, but yeah, it's about damn time. This took a while. I'm a big fan of crossing these streams. I never thought we would get a D&D themed Magic set. I made the Magic themed D&D show, the first one ever for twitch.tv/D&D. And I believe I'm still the only person that has ever dual streamed live to both the D&D and Twitch channel. I think I'm still the only person. And I love that we've finally come to the point where it's like, yeah, we don't need these taboos anymore. Like, there's a long time where they were like, don't even mention Las Vegas in a sentence. And now we go to Las Vegas 2-3 times a year as Magic the Gathering. They're like, don't talk about the 3rd floor when we're up here on the 4th floor at Wizards of the Coast. Magic and D&D are on their own separate teams. And now we've done a few crossovers in both directions with source books as well as sets. I think that it was important for us to get past all of that. My complaint has to do with me being an old man D&D, not even old man Magic, where I was like, I wish some of these big legendary archetypal things were better cards. You know what I mean? Like, I wish the Tarask was a better card. But other than that, this was a flavorful
a scary Displacer beast.
Yeah. Right. Well, we got Displacer Kitten, which was extremely good.
Yeah, that's true.
How is Fighter Class $8? What the hell is happening?
Dude, there's a lot of random cards if you just flip through and you're just like, who's playing this? But obviously people are,
Yeah.
Because it's like a Stoneforge Mystic almost.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Sort of searches up equipment, which is rad. Yeah, Teleportation Circle is like the third most expensive card in the set, which is weird.
Sure.
And Old Gnawbone is $44, y'all, for any
people love them some Old Gnawbone to make all them treasures.
Minimum,
Right.
which is crazy. And I love it. I thought that set was great. All right. Oop, we're not number 8. We're in number 7. All right. Power Dragon, what's number 7?
My number 7 is Ixalan from 2017. This one was fun just because of the feel, the styling, having actual dinosaurs with feathers, which I think a lot of people didn't know was a thing.
Yep.
Like the accuracy and the effort they put in, because there was a lot of talk about getting cultural directors and everything else and like making sure everything was treated properly, and it showed at the end result of the product. And the creature themes were fun, because it's been a while to that point that we'd had quality theme decks that you could build with different creature types. So it was fun to see like, oh, there's merfolk and there's vampires, and like people really resonated with that, and it went over really well. So it was cool to just see all that work put in, and then it actually pays off. So they're encouraged to do it again in the future.
If there was any set that I had ever played that begged so hard for changelings, if changelings had been in this set, in my opinion, it would have been an all-timer. This to me is a set that was full of possibility, but ultimately was fairly frustrating, because a lot of my limited experience was I was just 2 pirates away. You know what I mean? I was just so close to getting just the right amount to where I could actually do something cool, depending on sort of where I was working in terms of things and mechanics, which is cool. There were some really great mechanics that showed up here. I think Raid showed up here originally, which was really rad. And I liked a lot of the mechanics and the ideas. I just feel like, damn, if we had changelings, this thing would have been insane.
Yeah.
Yep, I didn't play a single limited game of that set, so I can't even speak to it.
I played a lot. Let me tell you,
buddy.
Pain was real.
I mean, the flavor of Ixalan was incredible. It was so close to my list because of how wonderful they translated the Mesoamerican like pirates and conquistador vampires. I thought was a stroke of brilliance. I thought the pirates were super fun. The merfolk were super fun. I thought that this was a great marriage and a really interesting experiment. It just didn't translate in play to me. I don't have fond memories of playing Ixalan, but I'm glad that we went back and we got another bite at the apple with the flavor of the location. I think that it ties into the overall story with Jace and the Immortal Sun really well. And I think that was wonderful.
And let me end with this, because this is the most 2017 of 2017 things. There was a marketing promotion. I remember paying very close attention to this because it was geocaching. You guys remember geocaching?
Yeah, sure.
Geocaching was when you would have points on the map that people would have to go to and find various clues that were essentially buried around there. You'd have coordinates and whatnot. And I was like, is this the next big thing? Like, are we going to have this weird, internet to real life bridge by having people go places and do things? I don't know. Obviously not. But it was cool. It was different. It was neat. And Wizards really embraced this like new strange technology that was a big trend at the time that kind of went, as all trends go, and out the door.
I mean, I'm always wondering if an ARG is coming to Magic the Gathering that we just aren't seeing, because ARGs are meant to be discovered. I imagine that if an ARG is ever printed in a Magic set, just hidden in there, it'll get found out pretty quick.
Dude, it's funny you say it. I might still have 2 of those keychains somewhere that were part of the thing where you could put the coordinates in and go bury them somewhere or whatever. Yeah, I might still have 2 of those somewhere.
Wow.
That was a wild time. I actually, every once in a while, maybe like once a year, I'll get a ping where somebody has registered it, because like you find it and you just put it in on the registry, like you found this thing or whatever. So they're still out there. I mean, somebody's using them.
And I also like the final bow here is Ixalan has Revel in Riches, which lets you win the game if you have 10 or more treasures. That used to sound like the most incredible amount of treasures. How could you ever get 10 treasures? What a world, So that was really
I wish that they would for now $20 or something.
14 minimum.
14
I wish they would print a version of that card that didn't have the win condition part. I would play that card if it didn't have the win condition part, but because it has the win condition, I get killed every time.
If it was a little cheaper and it didn't have the win condition, it'd be pretty rad. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, Black Smothering Tithe.
Yeah, pretty much. It would be awesome. All right, that's rad. And I bow out for the next little bit here. Let's move to number 6. because I've got higher.
Oh, geez.
I
All right.
swear to God, I know this is going to be like my number 6 is Ruben's number 5.
Right.
Probably.
And so on and so forth. It happens every time. But Ruben, what's number 6?
Well, here's the thing. I also have a higher at number 6 and at number 5. So I'm
that's crazy.
also out of here.
So it's me
just
doing
a
all the
second.
business. Okay,
all the
then.
business. Number 6, what you got?
All right, number 6. This is one it made my list, but I sort of have a love-hate relationship on it. And what actually tipped it over for me is the positivity I see when I go to game stores. But Ikoria from 2020. I feel like this set, people turned out to really love the mutation ability in the set. And I did not realize for a long time it was that popular. But anytime we get a card that's new and can be used in a mutation, where it's always part of conversation, which I found to be very interesting. It's also where we got to showcase Vivian quite a bit, which was a big deal. And it was another set that felt like it kind of got lost in time a little bit, because of the pandemic to some extent. We didn't get to play with it as much as you would wanted to. It wasn't part of like the big standard thing for very long at game stores. So that was a little bit of a disappointing thing there. But yeah, I think promotionally, it didn't get what it could have gotten. When you're talking about like big monsters, Godzillas and whatever, like could have done some really cool stuff. But having some crossover promotional material did help the set, I think, quite a bit. And it's one I think it could be fun to go back and revisit it. I just don't know how you could do it without we've already done a ton with mutations. So I don't know what else you would add to that set to make it different.
It was a wild set.
It was,
absolutely loved Ikoria. I still think it's cool. It was complicated, but a fun complicated is the way I would put it. It was just like, it's the number 1 release that got smacked by COVID. Like it was released in the middle of April, 3 or 4 weeks prior, the whole world shut down. Like this was everyone was wearing masks and had to pick up stuff just from their car, practically throwing the pre-release kits in the cars to just keep moving. Let's go. Because no one knew anything at that point other than we're scared to death. And so,
dude, we were wiping down pizza boxes that got delivered.
Oh yeah. Carrie was wiping down all the kitchen stuff we had. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, the idea of monsters. I love the comic book art stuff. The comic book stories were so cool. I love that to death. So I think this is rad. I look forward to us coming back. If nothing else, I don't think it needs a lot of additional transformation. You know what I'm saying? Like I think Mutate by itself is cool and neat and very complex. And like fact is, this is a Mark Rosewater, David Humphreys joint. These are 2 of the best. This is right up there with Eric Lauer and Mark Rosewater, which other of their sets we've already talked about. But this is the big boys who came out swinging, and I think it was really cool. This card.
We also got Godzilla cards. And people were really hyped about Godzilla cards.
Yeah, and we got Godzilla cards in the client too. Right.
This one's not quite my tempo.
This is Ruben's streets. He doesn't like Ikoria.
This is I would have done the poop
totally
sandwich
understandable
if I had gone earlier.
Sure.
I think that every good designer has a stinker, and I don't think that I think this one's the stinker. That from Humphreys and Rosewater. This is their Crystal Skull.
Wow.
Damn, Crystal Skull bands.
I don't think this set's good. It was a pretty miserable limited environment. I think that Mutate was not deep enough to warrant its complexity. If you wanted beasts and monsters, we should have just gone back to Zendikar again. Like I don't get this one.
And again, all my stuff is from constructed perspective. So you were probably totally right on the limited side of things.
The limited had an issue because of the cycling deck. The red-white cycling deck kind of warped everything around it because when you got the nut cycling deck,
nothing could beat you.
Nothing could stop.
Yeah.
It was, you were literally like what was your deck doing? Drawing your deck. Like what's powerful in Magic? Drawing cards. So they went basically a little too far, and because they went a little too far in that aspect, I think it did warp the limited environment, but I thought constructed was neat. Look, let's face it. Companions were an absolute disaster.
Yeah,
that for me is the blip. That's the black mark for me on the
side.
It
really is.
Yeah, Companions were a disaster. Cycling was too strong and limited, not strong enough and constructed.
Right.
And Mutate didn't really do anything anywhere. And was also super complex. Like it was just so bad for new players. I didn't even know what was going on half the time.
Yeah, at that point, it's funny because at that, you kind of put yourself in the mind space that like the world is shut down. You couldn't go anywhere. Everyone was stuck in place. A new Magic set has come out that's going to give you a free 8th card just for playing your deck. And I'm like, I'm like losing my mind, and I'm like, am I being hyperbolic? I don't know. Zvi Mauschwitz is like, this is the stupidest thing he's ever seen in his whole life, and I'm like, Zvi doesn't go off the handle like this. You know what I mean? It was a whole thing. Everyone was going high emotions when this is coming out. So companions, disaster.
Yeah,
Rest of
the
set,
biggest issue
I'm
too
pretty
with
big fan of.
companions. My issue with companions really too is they weren't restrictive enough for being that
That
eighth
too.
card.
I think that
Right.
they could make companion work even with the new ability.
Yeah.
You just have to make it significantly more
Difficult.
oppressive.
Yeah.
Right. When we had talked about that, I think it was Patrick Sullivan who was like, make a Shivan Dragon companion, but you have to have only basic mountains in your deck.
Right. Make
Yeah,
a Battle
exactly.
of Wits companion
Exactly.
instead of a Yorion.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
but Luris was just like, oh, play
Yeah.
cheap, efficient things.
Right. And have fun.
Right.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
all
Like
right.
that's what I'm gonna do anyway. Thanks.
Sure.
Right.
And then
Kahira
let's
was
break
like play no creatures in your deck, and
Yeah.
Yorion was play a control deck, and
At least
yeah, it was
Yorion
just- it
forced
was
you to
too
play
easy.
80 cards or whatever.
Right.
Like-
And by the time we got to the Gyruda decks, man, it was.
And then
it was
Gigantha
nuts.
was also an.
Yeah.
I mean, they've all been
Oh,
banned
my-
in some format.
They were
at this
all
point, so.
absolutely ridiculous and crazy, and that was the problem. Okay, well that's fun. We have Ikoria there, Lair of Behemoths. Let's move on here to number 5. Power Dragon, what's number 5?
My number 5, this is actually where I guess I get into some that are a little more modern here, but actually Duskmourn.
Ooh.
This is one I really went back and forth on a bit, but the more I thought about it, is this felt like the one where they were taking the most chances of saying, okay, an in-world Magic set that's going to look the least in-world Magic up to that point, right? We're going to do all the 80s tropes. There's going to be chainsaws, and we're using TVs in the promotions and whatever. Like, how is this going to go over? Right. And I think some people got a little more hung up on that than necessary, but turns out the gameplay of a lot of the cards was actually pretty sweet. And a lot of them still get played a lot right now, even in standard. And they probably will the entire run that they're standard legal.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not as big a fan of the world of just like, hey, there's this big haunted house and some spooky thing lives in it and you can't leave the house. A little bit awkward. So that part's not my jam. But everything else, visually, I thought they stuck the landing on a lot of stuff. I love having the tropes of like the survivors from the house and everything else. And it turns out it was a good juxtaposition from coming just off Bloomborough. So like, if you don't like the cute, fuzzy woodland animals or whatever, here's this dark hardcore thing that you can kind of be into. And it worked. That period in time saw a sales spike for Magic with back-to-back Magic sets that were completely different and just appealed to different audiences. So it was the right set at the right time.
Yeah, I agree. I love Duskmourn. I think that the flavor worked. I think that, you have a set that has windbreakers and telephones and TV screens and goggles. I'm happy about it because fantasy does not mean 1600s. Fantasy does not mean, BC. Fantasy can be modern fantasy. And I think it's been a minute since we took a look in the mirror and said, what does it mean to be Magic the Gathering from all timelines? And we had just come off of a bit of a run of what we've been calling hat sets recently of like, what if Magic but Western? What if Magic but animals? What if Magic but cars, right? And so this was a little bit of a risk from that standpoint. It was also a risk from the modernity standpoint because Magic has always been taboo about guns and technology and stuff like that. I think that they knocked it out of the park, even given all those expectations and constraints. This was a really fun set, translated extremely well.
Yeah, for anyone who's just like, I don't like baseball bats and tennis shoes in my mat, get out. Just go on. Door's right over there. No one needs that. Look, I think that the Avatar horrors were super freaking rad. All of them were cool. All the Overlords were playable and interesting in their own way. Valgavoth is an incredible reanimation target, one of the hardest things to kill ever, a new hardest thing to kill ever. The Verges were unreal. The Verges are some of the best dual lands ever made.
Yeah.
Like, this set had, like, Screaming Nemesis is an absolute baller of a red Magic card. It's one of the best red creatures ever made. Like, seriously, it's not even really close. Fear of Missing Out was incredibly playable. The Enduring creatures were awesome. Like, there is a ton of great stuff that happened in this set. The limit environment was rad. The fact that they figured out how to do split enchantments, essentially, with rooms to unlock them or whatever, which was a cool idea. There's so much that went really right with this set, and the fact that it swung the pendulum so far from Bloomborough, yet still was awesome. awesome set, super cute, awesome set, we're going to hell, let's go. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
It was two sides of that coin, and both of them worked awesome.
You know,
And
now
they-
I'm thinking about it, the set also, I'm thinking about all the mechanics in the set. I think they all were relevant at some point,
Mhm.
which is also very good. That's
Yep.
kind of hard to do for a lot of sets.
Yeah.
Yep. For
Yeah,
sure.
It was cool. And again, they could make just the Meat Hook Massacre 2. I mean,
Yeah,
super
Well, yeah.
magic cards. That was
Yeah, that was
rad as
awesome.
hell, man. That
Yeah.
was so cool. So the fact that you can do that in Magic is brilliant, and I love it. Let's move on here to number 4. I still don't got one. I'll have one eventually. Ruben, what's number 4?
My number 4 is, I think, the oldest one on my list, and it's going to be tough to have one older, because mine is Amonkhet.
Okay.
I love Amonkhet. I think that Amonkhet is a great set. I think that it plays really well. It was relevant all the way through. It's still got cards that are wanted and needed and expensive and fun. But the most important thing about Amonkhet for me is, for years, especially at the beginning of this show, we said, what are the lines that we need to cross? What are the places we need to go that we haven't gone to yet? And the very first thing we always said was Egyptian. We always said ancient Egypt. When are we getting ancient Egypt fantasy? And we finally got it with Amonkhet.
You know, I actually think this is a good pick to be on the list. It's another one that I think, because it was, I say so long ago, but I mean, like feels like it was forever ago. But yeah, it's one of those sets pre-COVID that I think people have forgotten about how much that set got played. Like, there was a lot of cool stuff. Hell, that dragon alone with Exert or whatever it was everyone like, tab. Oh, that thing was nuts, right? So there was just a lot of really cool stuff that it addressed, and I think even from story purposes, being to like, hey, this is why that our big bad can do the things he does, because he has all these people that believe him and all these gods that are working for him and whatever. And also having the story of they've now become disillusioned with it. And like, now we kind of see through the veil, if you will, of like, oh no, he's actually a bad person, and he's actually going to wreck this whole joint. Right? And that was actually, I think, when we got to the second set, was kind of like everybody going like, oh, okay, he really is like bad. So like, yeah, I thought that was really neat too. And again, the mechanics were flavorful, not only from fitting the story, but for what they were supposed to do in the game, which I thought was really neat.
Right. And what I had said earlier, Mark Rosewater and Dave Humphreys tag teamed it with Ethan Fleischer and Brian Hawley, and they did a fantastic job. The idea of the embalming mechanic, I thought was super rad. Like, tokens for specific cards, if I recall, was nothing. They never done that before. We're like,
not before.
A specific token only goes with a specific card, and that was it. And the artwork was like the embalmed version where they're all wrapped up. I thought that was super cool. The brick counters, like, I remember going like, they're gonna have brick counters, guys. And everyone's like, what the hell's a brick counter? I'm like, I don't know, it's just super cool because we're building stuff in Egypt, So I thought that was really rad. Really, really cool ideas. I don't think Aftermath came off, I think, as well as they'd hoped, but anything
The
that lets me
ability,
do, anything that lets me do 2 spells, I don't really care that much if it's.
Aftermath was good. I liked Aftermath. The brick counters I wish were more relevant in constructed.
Right.
They were not worth they were another juice that wasn't really worth the squeeze at that point. But everything else kind of hit. I mean, Aftermath cards got played, Embalm cards got played, Cycling obviously got played, always gets played. Yeah.
Yeah, Amonkhet was a fantastic set that did a lot of cool stuff that I liked a lot. Power Dragon, what's number 4?
My number 4, I guess the second most recent on my set, my list, which is crazy, but Tarkir Dragonstorm actually made my list from this year. And mostly because I think of its positioning. Coming back to what Ruben was talking about earlier, is we had a string of so many like in-world Magic sets that kind of were just departures, right? We didn't have actually just Magic flavor, right? We'd killed people in Ravnica. We'd raced cars. We'd done all this stuff. And it was like, okay, this is the point where this set has to hit. Because, everybody said, we just want in-world Magic stuff again. And if this set doesn't hit, all right, what is the beacon that this starts to shine, right? Like, if this doesn't work. And not only did it hit, it smashed. Like, it sold out. It was crazy big. even a different bit of the story, getting us new legendary dragons, which everybody was excited about. We got recurring characters that people liked in Zergo and whatnot. Like, I checked so many boxes, I think, for a lot of people. Like, hard to complain about this set. I don't know if I would do much different with this set for what they were trying to do.
Same. I think this one was probably my number 11. This was such a perfect, and also I have a bias, I will say, because I was an ambassador for Tarkir Dragonstorm. And so I played a lot of Tarkir Dragonstorm, did a lot of content for Tarkir Dragonstorm, and it is Magic at its best, and it's Magic at its purest, and it is not Universes Beyond, it is not anything else. It's what is Magic the Gathering at its core, right? I liken this set to, I don't know how big of fans you guys are of the Shang-Chi movie that came out, but I really like the Shang-Chi movie.
I never saw it.
The original MCU Phase 1, we had all of these really central stories of the original cast, and we built up to the Avengers. But then in Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, we just kept getting like, what if we put Iron Man on this plane of existence? And what if we made a multiverse crossover for this character? And what if we did this? And what if we did this? And then Shang-Chi comes along and it's another just solid origin story that doesn't need anything else. And that's what Tarkir Dragonstorm is to me. It's just a super solid Magic set that doesn't need anything else. Everything else is, you can use the history. It's a nice harkening back to the previous Dragonstorm arc, where we had the cons and we had the dragons and we had the history of the timeline shift with Ugin and Sarkhan, but we don't need it. Instead, we've got all these other new characters. We've got these spirit dragons, and we've got these identities for these clans that come through even stronger in most cases than the dragons themselves. I thought that this was such a beautiful set. It had huge impacts on every format, and it's just wonderful.
This is the swan song of Eric Lauer. Eric Lauer is an absolutely incredible dude. I knew him for many years, got to talk to him over the course of many years. Just a huge fan of the guy. And I'm just like, hey, how do you do what you do so well? This is the guy who, if you think of a lot of your favorite Magic experiences, I can imagine Eric Lauer has been in there in some form or fashion. Rosewater described him as one of the top 10 people who most influenced Magic design. Mm-hmm. This was an amazing set, because this is literally the culmination of all these things. He worked from Morningtide to Tarkir Dragonstorm. And let me tell you, he went out on top. Like, Tarkir Dragonstorm is an all-timer, super fun, limited, fantastic and constructed, like just the heart of what Magic, what we were sort of looking for, yearning for. Like, stop putting hats and things. I don't want to go on a race car. Just let me play a dragon and beat you to death with it. Like, that's where we're at here. And he gave us the dragons. He gave us the Dragon Table theme, with the Dragonstorm cards that bounce back to your hands. You can play them again and again, which was cool and rad. Like, just a really cool experience. I really loved it. And to see, Eric, he retired in January 2024. This set didn't come out until like the year after. So I can only imagine how weird it is, honestly, to have been retired and then be like, year plus later, hey man, you're awesome, and this set's unreal, and we love you.
Good job, high five.
You killed it. Awesome, you're great. Eric Lauer's great. This is fantastic. He deserved all the credit, and then some.
One more thing to say about the set too that I think was important is we had a huge amount different players in the player base since the first Tarkir came out, and you could effectively pick this up and be totally into it without knowing anything about the old Tarkir, which I thought was a very good decision that they made.
For sure.
And shout out to Adam Prozac, development lead. Adam's great. Like, just some heavy hitters.
Athena Froelich was lead of something on this set as well.
Yeah, had some just fantastic people helping out, and they did great. All right, let's move on here to number 3. Don't worry, I ain't got one. It's number 2. Ruben, what's number 3?
My number 3 is the final higher on my list,
wow.
And I almost didn't put it on my list at all because I knew it would be somebody's either number 1 or number 2, but it is my number 3.
All right, Power Dragon, take us number 3.
Well, this one just feels like a cop-out, but it had to make the list. So, Final Fantasy from this year. Just sales-wise, hype. The stories it generated around the internet. And then if you actually played any of the Final Fantasies, everything was so resonant, right? Like, I'm not even like a super fan, but I could literally pick up cards and go, oh, I remember that, or I recognize this thing, or this is really cool. Like, And I get it. You're talking about what they say, 5 years or something to put this whole thing
5
together.
years to take to
Which
this
is
thing.
crazy. But it showed. You stories from R&D saying like, yeah, we went back and had to play some of the old games to make sure all of our flavor was correct and blah blah blah, make sure we didn't miss anything. And it showed. I mean, everything about this has been hyped. Everything has sold. All the video game websites have been on about it. And it's actually done a lot for both Magic and Final Fantasy as brands. Like they've seen their numbers go up since a lot of this promotion started. So yeah, this was just a win all the way around. It's crazy. If I don't know what else we get for Universes Beyond in the future, but right now this is our peak.
They couldn't print it fast enough. They could not make enough to sate the demand. Not even close. Like there was nothing, with the CEO was just like, sorry, we couldn't make enough. Everything we made sold.
They said they printed 4 times more than any initial release. That means somebody went to the dudes and went, hey, I think we should at least double everything. And they're like, all right, cool. All right, and then somebody went back a month later and was like, yeah, I think we need to double everything. No, we already did. No, I meant again.
Yeah, again. The thing that always kills me is because we know how awesome Final Fantasy is as a property in video game, as something that's affected my life for a very long time. It's been a huge, just game changer in terms of RPGs, the way that it's changed over the years, and it's still Final Fantasy, but it's different, and it tells all these different stories, and there's the MMO for it, as well as the single player stuff, which I think is brilliant. And you sit here, and arguably, I don't know the exact timelines, but arguably, they were working on this before Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. They finally got to put it out, and it almost feels like we went over it so quickly. It was like a 7-8 week release window before the next set showed up. And Edge of Eternities is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but man, it did hurt my heart a little bit when Final Fantasy seemed to come and go so quickly.
That's modern Magic, though. Like nobody gets time in the spotlight anymore. That's modern everything now. I know. Movies used to be in theaters for a year.
Yeah.
Songs used to be on the charts for months. Now it's like, what have you done in the last 12 hours? What's your algorithm right now? And that is what it is.
The other thing Final Fantasy was big for was just the promotion of the game of Magic.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. I mean, literally several people in my life were just like, hey, how do I get such and such card? Mm-hmm. Or like, hey, you're going to be at this big Magic thing, right? Can you pick up these cards for me? They don't even play it. They're like, but they want their Sephiroth card or they want a Cloud card or whatever. It's like, that's a lot, man. When you look at what's going on in the retail level right now, attendance at events and conventions, like just absolutely crazy since this set launched. So had to be on my list.
This was also a very specific release, at least for me, the way I recall it, is that previously the collector sets had been going kind of nutty. Not all of them. Like I don't think Doctor Who didn't kind of blow up, but like 40K went big, Fallout went big. But the sort of standard set collector packs had always been fine. They've been okay, and they'd sold, don't get me wrong, they're okay, they're good. But like collector Final Fantasy exploded. We're talking went to $400, $500, $600 plus dollars, $700 plus dollars, $800 for a box of collector boosters just because there could be a shiny Cloud or Sephiroth or whatever.
Oh, no, sir. $1,200.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
that was the first box I recall as a standard set collector booster that went just haywire.
Yeah, because 800 was nearing the uppermost end for like the Fallout one.
Right.
So to see something hit 1,200 was wild.
And we got some, we broke containment, as they say on the social medias. We exited the normal Magic spheres of content as it pertained to this release. Which does not happen super often. We had folks like musicians like Michael Clifford and Steve Aoki officially partnered making Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering content. We had, famous cosplay content creators like Jessica Nigri taking photos and making videos in front of the big sign at Anime Los Angeles, that big anime convention that's here in LA. We had people who have tens of millions of followers, not just Post Malone. Post Malone's a lifer, but not just Post Malone making Magic content, making Final Fantasy content.
Hell, Penguin Zero was cracking boxes on streams.
Yeah, there you go.
Like just to get cards. Like, it's a wild time, man, for real.
Yeah, this is one of the ultimate feathers in the cap regardless of the time it was in the sun. It was in the sun. It shone so bright they couldn't make enough of it.
Mhm.
It's still going to be in print for plenty of years, I can imagine. However many they can make, they'll make. And that's awesome. Like I enjoyed playing it. Limited environment was fun, and it was it was an accomplishment. I mean, it was my number 6 in terms of some of the best sets in the past 8 years. All right, let's move on here. Goodness, I'm going to have a whole bunch of my hires just now. On to number 2. So I'm going to talk about number 2 because I can talk about a set for the first time since number 7. When you go back and you think about it, and you think about when you were kind of in the middle of it, when you're in the middle of a set release, it's easy to kind of get sort of myopic. It's easy to kind of start to focus on like sort of what's wrong with it, right? Because everyone likes to complain. So what's wrong with it? Why can't this be so and so? Why can't this be as good as such and such or whatever? But looking back, the crown jewel of a storyline piece that was War of the Spark is just amazing. It's just fantastic. It was a very powerful set. Like, first of all, Planeswalker in every pack is just a fantastic phrase. And for as much as they go on about this Planeswalker fatigue, whatever, I didn't feel it. I love Planeswalkers. I love playing that set. I love the Planeswalker in each pack. I love how powerful they could all be. I love how like they didn't always have plus abilities, which was super cool because it kind of still gave them that Planeswalker flavor, but it held them back in power enough that they could be fair in a limited environment, which they often really aren't. They made some really powerful ones like Narset or whatever that are still impacting things today. They made some fantastic cards like the Finale Devastation. It remains the most expensive card. Liliana was huge. Remember that Japanese Liliana thing or whatever they had at the time? Like, so many cool promotions, not even close. And we all know this, not even close. It is the best trailer for a set ever made. No, there's no question. It's not a question. So War of the Spark is a beautiful set, fantastically capped off this huge storyline with years and years and years. The end of Nicol Bolas and where does Nicol Bolas go and so on. It led to the introduction of Ugin again. Just beautiful stuff. This set's amazing.
Yeah, this was my number 10.
This was my number 6.
So yeah, it made not a surprise it made all 3 lists.
Yeah.
Like for me, and again, I don't think I'm as high on the set as a lot of other people. I don't think it's bad by any stretch. I just don't think I have the same love for a lot of folks. But I do feel that where it was positioned, again, at the end of this long, hell, at that point, like 7-year storyline or whatever it is we were doing, right? Like the payoff was there, right? And because I think that's the thing. It's hard to stick a landing when you're doing something for that long. And we lost a major character, depending on how you view him. Right? Like that was part of the thing, and it was just a lot to go with it. That I think, like you're saying, they put a lot of time and thought into the things around it to make it as important as it could be. With the stained glass planeswalkers and all this other stuff, just to say, hey, this is important. Like we're gonna build it up, so like you have to believe it's important because we're gonna do everything possible to make this important. And it was like the last big thing we had really kind of prior to the pandemic, right? So it kind of even got to live a little longer in our zeitgeist a little bit because like, man, remember when we had this thing, right? Because there wasn't much of anything else to lean on for a minute. Right. So it was really cool for when it came out, for sure.
It's crazy to think about how the parallels between War of the Spark and Avengers Endgame line up, because a lot of what we're saying about War of the Spark, we could say about Infinity War and Endgame, which is
anything like that. Yeah.
It hit the spot. It's so hard to be in the pressure spot of bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded. All the pressure is on you and you alone, and you have to deliver. And it did. It lived up to expectations. It gave the story that it needed to be. And for some people, it's the best of the story. Right? War of the Spark paid off 7 years of story and gave you like all of these characters. And a lot of people had these moments in the sun, and it got these cool team up moments, and it got these awesome set pieces. It had the trailer. It got, you had Bolas's Citadel, which was the big villain card that to this day is a huge piece in Vintage and in Commander as well. So there's a lot of really cool stuff to like about War of the Spark. I absolutely think that it's deserving of looking back on fondly. And you're right, we got to sort of reflect on the story because we had this lull period where we had to sit in our houses by ourselves, wiping down pizza boxes and wearing masks, where we could go, man, what a good story, well told, War of
Yeah.
the Spark is.
To me, it's one of the sets, like in particular, I feel like every year that goes by, I like it more and more. When I look back on it, there's sets I've always loved and lauded and whatever. For me, War of the Spark was like, it was really good. And I was like, man, that was really, really
Mm-hmm.
good. Oh man, that was great. Oh man, that was like an all-timer. You know what I mean? Like you just keep thinking back of like how good it was and how many sort of echelons it crossed was incredible. All right, let's move on here to Ruben's number two. What you got?
Um, all of the things that everybody else said about Final Fantasy, I don't really have that emotional connection to Final Fantasy, but I can copy paste a lot of what was said about Final Fantasy to something that I do care about, which is Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Number four.
There you go. Whereas Final Fantasy sprinted headlong, uh, Lord of the Rings ran. I mean, at least Lord of the Rings proved that this was not a fluke. It proved that it could be done. It's a piece of lore of Rubens that makes me happy. I grew up with my parents reading me The Lord of the Rings, and I went to high school during the era of the films coming out, and so I was blessed with the ability to have the books that I loved become good movies, which not everybody gets. Not everybody gets good movies from the things that they like. And I'm sorry for that, Aragon fans, but that is the case. That some things do not become good movies, and some things don't translate to other formats like Magic. But this one did. This one, I have complaints about this set. I think that there's some stuff that was weird and some stuff that doesn't translate. And the fact that we didn't get it in standard, that this was a straight to modern set, definitely hampered it. But they learned from that. They took that experience and they said, learn from my mistakes with Final Fantasy and with Avatar going forward and release it for everybody, for everyone who comes to Friday Night Magic. And, I think that this was also a moment in which we broke containment with the One Ring, where the One of One Ring got opened. And thank God it was opened by someone who plays Magic, opened by someone who during the time of the cycle where people were still talking about it on IGN and NPR and, Variety. And then the world's nicest millionaire decided to buy it. And we got to record that and we got to see that as a community together. We got to watch Post Malone buy the card and add it to his collection. There are these community moments, there are these story moments, harkening back 100 years ago to when J.R.R. Tolkien first wrote the books. And an important thing that I didn't bring up during the Final Fantasy thing or here or whenever we get a Universes Beyond product, which might be the most important thing for the community of people who love those properties, is that we got 400 new pieces of Lord of the Ring, 800 new pieces of Lord of the Rings art from new artists, from fantasy artists who were commissioned to make art for Lord of the Rings, which is something that every artist who goes to art school dreams of being able to do, is being paid to make something based on the world's greatest fantasy trilogy. And I think that that's a wonderful thing as well.
Yeah, I think it's, from that regard, when you're talking about being able to represent some things that have never been visually represented from the books, right? There was a bunch of things people were seeing for the first time. Like, what's the interpretation of this character or of this location or whatever? Because for as long as the movies were, a lot of stuff still wasn't covered. So it was cool to see a lot of that stuff. And people were very positive about it. And I think it kind of set the groundwork for Wizards to say, hey, we can take these hugely important pieces of IP, whether, we're talking about Final Fantasy or whatever, but at the time it was just Lord of the Rings, to say, hey, we can pull this off. We can check all the boxes. We can make it relevant for Magic, but we can also satisfy all the fans of this IP and make everybody happy. And since then, it's like, yeah, it's just been a bunch of home runs when it comes to Universes Beyond stuff. So, I mean, credit to them. And again, before Final Fantasy, it was the highest selling Magic set we'd ever had, right? So it did everything it needed to do for Wizards and for players and fans.
I'm curious how you feel sort of looking back at this point, Power Dragon, about the Aragorn thing.
Yeah.
It never really bothered me, even then or now. I think it's just, there's a lot of things where we talk about historically some minorities didn't exist because they just weren't included in things, right? Whether we like it or not, that's just what the world was. Like we just didn't put them in things. Or you got whites that, did various levels of blackface or whatever to play those roles when they were needed. That's just kind of what happened. So to take a chance and say, hey, all right, what if, we say, hey, we could interpret this character this way, right? Let's try it and see what it looks like. It kind of still makes sense within the writing. So let's see.
Yeah.
And for some people, I get it, right? For what they know of Lord of the Rings was just the movies.
Right.
And that was the interpretation I had. So it was kind of shocking to see that. And that makes sense too. But over time, the same way that we include more women in more things where women weren't included before, because that was just the thing you didn't do for a lot of stuff through a lot of writing. I think it's just a sign of the time. So take a chance and don't change the story, don't change
right?
the outcomes of things. But yeah, just say like, hey, what if we tried this different thing? What does that look like? Cool. And in hindsight, it worked out. I mean, some people gripe for like the first week and then nobody cared after that.
Right.
Yeah. It was a nice litmus test of just like, how you feel about this, Boudreaux? And you went weird about it. Well, okay, that says more about you.
Well,
then
I guess I'll delete your number. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Ultimately, Lord of the Rings is just a gigantic, win. It was huge. It was ridiculous. We think Final Fantasy is good and incredible, whatever. No, at the time, Lord of the Rings was nuts. And no one can get away from it. They were doing 2 set releases. They were going to do another holiday release. Like, are they out of their mind? And doing these weird, like, set things where you put up, like, 6 or 9 cards or whatever to make a scene, the scene card stuff, which was neat. Yeah, and then, of course, there was the One Ring right on top of it. So you had, first of all, Ben Hayes and Glenn Jones as design and development leads. Those guys rock, did a good job. It sucks that oftentimes Magic sets are really sort of remembered or known for their biggest outliers. The One Ring, Orcish Bowmasters, okay, whatever. But like overall, as a set, as of cards that people like to buy and play with, as a whole food thing, like I think ultimately the ring tempts you a little much.
The ring tempts you as a little bit too much complexity.
It was flavorful, but not impactful.
Right. Yeah. I think they might have sort of worked too hard on that one, you know what I mean? But it's whatever. It's fine. Because ultimately the set didn't suffer for it. The set still played great. And it was just a wonderful, this is what they, for me, I know like people like Aaron Forsyth, this is what they always wanted to make. They were not going to screw it up. They were going to take their time, make some awesome artwork, double dip as hard as they could. Like that double dipping holiday set thing was wild. No one had ever seen that before. And it still paid off and it still sold. And those cards are worth $1 bajillion now because not a lot of people bought them. So there's on that too.
And I do think it not being in standard was a thing that they learned very quickly, right? Because from a set design standpoint, a lot of the food stuff and whatever would have been really cool to have in standard at the time. We still had some other sets that had some food mechanic things that were around. Like that would have been great. Yeah. But that stuff's not going to be impactful in modern or legacy or whatever. The cards just aren't powerful enough.
And that's where I can see how, like, if it had been standard legal, the One Ring would not have been the One Ring as we saw it today.
Oh, definitely not.
It'd have been more expensive, or it had a payment to the activation cost. It would look closer probably to the Alchemy version that we see on Arena. Because it can't be that high powered in a standard format. But that's okay. Again, they wanted to make it good. You don't want to make the One Ring suck, and so on. But either way, between that and the lore, it's just terrific. Power Dragon, what's number 2?
My number 2. This is a set that everybody was super hyped on. For me, again, I like it. I wasn't as hyped, but I do like this because of the, hey, let's take another swing at it. And it's Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
Number 3 as well.
Nice.
It's just one of those sets where every time somebody brought up Kamigawa, it was always like, man, but that set is, the arcane mechanic, we kind of sort of like it, but it just didn't really hit, And then it's like, man, we're going back to Kamigawa. All right, let's see what they do. And then we start getting images and we're like, yo, what's all this like motorcycles and neon lights and like, what's going on here? You're like, wait a minute. Right. And then you start seeing the set come together. And you're like, oh, this is kind of sweet. Oh, it's a futuristic Kamigawa. All right. We're into it. We got some rat biker gangs and things like, okay, let's see what this is about. And then it turns out everybody enjoyed it. The set played well. The mechanics were great. Fans of Kamigawa didn't feel let down that they didn't just get, more of the same, and it really did. It did more than we thought it was going to do. And I think that's part of the reason people love it so much. It was kind of surprising and shocking and set the bar again high to say, hey, what about some of these other sets we don't like? Can we go back and revisit those now?
Yeah.
Like what else can we get? Right now it has us asking other questions. So I think just for that alone, it had to make the list.
For sure. I'm gonna relinquish most of my time to the representative from Tennessee, but I do want to say before I let Evan talk about his baby, that it is nice when things live up to expectation. It is so nice when things drastically blow expectation out of the water. And the fact that we got a return to a set that wasn't looked upon favorably by a ton of people, and a return to a plane, and we got a reimagination and an updating to make it something that's not only an homage to the original, but a beautiful reimagining and modernization of the original with powerful cards, with excellent mechanics, with balance, with incredible art, with just inspired design. Everything worked. Everything worked about Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
I mean, this is a Dave Humphreys, Mark Rosewater joint. Like, they make amazing sets. This is, like, first of all, it took someone's to have serious balls to put this up on the table and be like, hey, let's do this. We know Kamigawa didn't go okay the last time, but we got a good idea. We got old and new. We got futuristic and ancient. We can put them together. We can have these things cross. Awesome. This is the literal poster child for the explanation that don't focus on going back to planes that you killed it. When you go back to Innistrad, we just keep going, man, this doesn't have that same kick, that same flavor. Ravnica's a little bit different, but when you keep going back to these places like Zendikar, and we're like, man, this was kind of, man, I didn't really like this so very much. You go back to the planes that you screwed up. For God's sakes, take us back to Mercadia. Give us a thing about buying and selling and trading and doing stuff. That's going to be awesome because you've learned all of these lessons for all of these years. It's literally exactly what happened here. So we want to go back and fix Homelands. Yes, go back and fix Homelands. First of all, you got all the nostalgia for all the old school people. B, you can fix all the lore. C, we love the characters and the people who don't know what the hell's going on. It's just a new cool place in Magic. And when you kill it because you took all the little bits that kind of worked and got rid of all the crap that was just terrible, you see what happens? You see where we went? Like how we went crazy over this? It was fan-freaking-tastic. I absolutely loved it. And again, I just cannot stress so much for Wizards to stop trying to recreate the best sets that they made. Go back to the ones that didn't work and fix them with all of your new modern ideas because it works. It works. I love it. This set's amazing.
Literally, I only had one single complaint about the set, and it was just that they didn't do much with Samurai in the actual set. Like, there was like some, I think, in a commander deck or whatever, but it just was, because like people kind of like the original Samurai, and you brought back ninjutsu and everything else. It's like, that was my only complaint. Everything else was good. Everything else was good.
Right. And honestly, if you think back about it, when they were very active in making alchemy changes, they went back and made all the samurai better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't move a lot of needles, but they tried, like, again, just one of those things where like, okay, this was the 1 week part of it. Let's juice it. Let's make it cool online. And they tried. So they did that. And I appreciate that. All right, let's move on here to our number one. And I believe based on this, Power Dragon and I have the same number one. And Ruben, by process of elimination, you have my number 5. But let's go ahead and check on that. Ruben, what's your number 1?
I have the same number 1 as somebody.
Oh,
do we all have the same number 1?
No, we do not. Well, at least I don't think so, unless we've got a mistake somewhere. So let's say.
So I'm missing my number 5.
Yeah, me too. No, you're missing number 5. Power Dragon, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is the one that I saw bring in the most new faces that we have not been able to reach in forever.
Yep.
And it was Bloomburrow.
That's my number 5.
Our number 5.
For as much as people wanted to poo-poo this, it's too cute, no, little animals, no.
Oh, no way.
Polymorphic, blah, blah, whatever. Like, the reality, the number of, like, couples and kids and women and whatever that were attracted to this and started wanting to learn the game, I don't remember seeing that with any other Magic sets.
It was crazy.
Like, honestly, like ever. And to see that and people be so positive about it. And then even the stuff that resonated that they set up at like the Magic Cons with like little corners with like the Bloomburrow stuff and the vines and everything else, like it just hit just right. And again, we're coming off some extra hat sets before that. And it was like, I don't know, is this one going to work? Is this going to check the boxes? And once it came out again, we got to see people like theme decks. right? Like, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
checked all those boxes. We don't get very many of those, so it was the right time for it. It made sense with a bunch of woodland critters. The cards ended up being very powerful, still played in standard today, right? This is going to be an all-time like impactful set, surprisingly, and I don't think people expected that when we first heard about it. But for me, it was just the impact it had for drawing people in. I think it's just hard for me. And from a former retail level, if I had my shop, I would have loved to have had this. The things I could have done with this and the ways you could market this with schools, with libraries, with whatever, like it just opens so many doors.
I mean, it's our number 5 for a reason. One of my top 5 sets in the past 8 years. Absolutely killed it. The fact that you can have folk for all the draft archetypes, bird folk, rat folk, lizard folk, and so on. The idea that they had the ability to kind of merge between the different types and the different the friendly colors and how they would overlap on certain like lands and effects and whatnot. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like, was it 100% perfectly balanced? No, it's honestly crazy difficult to do that anyway. Maybe things led a little rabbit heavy rather in limited, whatever. It was still super fun to play in limited. It was great and constructed, maybe a little too great and constructed. Thanks, mice. But again, you got to go somewhere. And if anything, if you never played alchemy, I know I'm one of those weirdos who play alchemy. Otters were insane, by the way, and they're still kind of nuts. But before the rotation, and they had to actually make some of the alchemy cards worse because they were just crazy. So like, yeah, that's the whole thing. But the fact is, we're talking about birds, rats, raccoons, and otters, and we're loving it. Like, that's awesome. That's pure fantastic magic, man. This is awesome.
I'm a Redwall fan, so this was like dead center my wheelhouse. I heard that there was consternation about the theming, that this was too childlike for our children's card game.
Get out of here.
But I never actually met anybody who said that they were like, don't do this.
I will tell you, I never met anybody in person that had that mindset.
Yeah.
Several online, but none in person.
Oh, I'm not sure I even saw any online. But also I hang out with a bunch of LARPers and you know, actors and children. So not actual children, man babies. Where we go, you know, play dress up on the weekends. So we all love, you know, the fairies of Throne of Eldraine, and we all love the storybook mammals of Bloomborough. So this was a great moment in the culture of introducing new people, right? This one was bring in new folks into the game store, bring in new folks into your hobby, into the kitchen tables, because small mammals are cute, man. Sometimes you don't got to be any more complicated than that.
There you go. All right. So for our number 1 set for Ruben and I, I'll build it up. You can go ahead. I'll tee it up. You can go ahead and knock it out. Look, my number 1 set is Mark Rosewater lead design, also include Richard Garfield. Eric Lauer was the co-lead, along with Dave Humphreys co-lead. Literally, we've been nothing.
That's Mount Rushmore.
It's the Mount Rushmore of design and development for Magic the Gathering as we know it for the first 30 years of this game. They are some of the best ever. This is a set that is absolutely fantastic from start to finish. It is. I am not kidding. I've played Magic since 1996. I have never had a better limited experience than I did every single time playing this set. It is perfect. We're talking like Thanos perfectly balanced. It is perfectly balanced in a way that blew my mind when I was playing it, because I couldn't believe how sweet and perfect. The fact that it created sagas that we use now in basically every set, sagas that are some of the most powerful storytelling tools that we have. You put Richard Garfield on a Magic set, stuff's going to change. And the world before Dominaria and the world after Dominaria are 2 different worlds. And yeah, Teferi was an outlier in terms of constructed whatever, but you know what? He was a hell of a chase card that people were crazy excited to get. And if you got it in limited, it wasn't the end of the world. If you got an incredible mythic, your common could answer it. Like the actual color pairs themselves were fantastically aligned. You could splash for certain things. You could play a 5-color deck, or you could play just those color pairs as they were designed. Just beautiful, fantastic Magic. I've still got a box of it right over there behind me because it is just, it's iconic in ways that I can't even hardly describe. It's the main plane of Magic. It's coming back from that. It's taken all those lessons learned from all the years. It's taken the incredible designers, incredible developers, and made something fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I put on my list was Dominaria number 1.
Yeah, it was my number 1, not close.
And then I filled out 2 through 9 because I knew that Dominaria was going to be my number 1. It is, as I mentioned earlier, it's nice when something lives up to expectations when it's good. It's nice when something blows things out of the water when you aren't expecting it to be good. It's something crazy when both happen at the same time. Like when you're expecting it to be the best thing ever, and then it's better than you expected. Like that's LeBron James, that's Shohei Ohtani, that's if you're expecting $1 billion movie and you make $2 billion instead.
Right.
That's crazy talk. That's absurd. And somehow Dominaria did it. It made a perfect limited environment, probably the best limited environment that's ever been made. You have 12 playable archetypes in limited. There's only 10 color pairs. How did they do that? Right? You had a extremely diverse and popular standard format. You had iconic card types come out of the set, as you mentioned with sagas. You had iconic cards. You had callbacks to iconic characters without needing to necessarily be familiar with the story. And it was just like the perfect time to sort of refresh everybody in that I think this was late 2018. We had just left Ixalan and we needed a little bit of a refresher after Rivals, and we wanted some a little, or go back to the well. And boy, did we get to go back to the well with this one.
Yeah, I felt like this was one of those cool sets for standard where even a lot of the smaller cards got to be bit players and things. And because I think a lot of times you're like, maybe a handful of commons or uncommons show up anywhere. But it felt like more of the set fit more of the theming for different things going on at the time, which I thought was very cool and something that was very unexpected. Obviously, the big cards were all very impressive, but yeah, I think that's something you don't get with a lot of sets, which maybe also is a result of, trying to build for a quality limited environment, right? All more of those impactful commons and uncommons actually get to have more power so they can show up in a standard environment. But yeah, I mean, hype around it, I think if you ask a lot of people, I think there'd be a lot of people that agree with you that Dominaria is their favorite set of the last, several years.
Yeah, the fact that Historic showed up in here for the first time, the Saga showed up as well. So much of the history, when you have a set that's built around history, you have that beautiful mix of the older players are going to just get to live all those nostalgia and all that those good feel goods, and the new players are going to go, "What is this? Like, what does this mean?" And they can dig into that history and learn more about these characters. And so the fact that there was a legend in every single pack, which was huge, the Planeswalkers were rad. It had a new Mox, for God's sake. We don't get new Moxes, y'all. And hell yeah, it turned out to be playable because every Mox is freaking playable in some form or fashion just because it costs 0 no matter what. Just fantastic cards. And if you had a cube, you had cards from Dominaria in it. If you had a limited, set thing, you probably had some cards from there in it. And if you ever wanted to make your own Magic set, you can just start here as the template. Just, X number of cards that do this and do Y and creatures and so on. Just fan-freaking-tastic. All right. And that's it. Those are our top 10 sets of all time post 25th anniversary. You will see them on screen right now for your review. Take a look at my list, Power Dragon's list, Ruben's top 10, and we want to hear from you about what card, or rather what set, we did not talk about, and we'll select our favorite to highlight in the next top 10. But before we go, I want to thank my co-hosts. Thank you, Ruben.
What a fun episode. I love doing these.
Yeah, thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, it's fun just to take a walk down memory lane because while it's only 2017, there's still a lot that happened in those last 8 years.
Absolutely. We'll move here to our final slide. I want to thank our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Blue Sky at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.